She waited for a count of 4 to let any flying debris land, and then threw a second grenade toward the engine of the dark commuter train. It landed on the roof. Hala was already running east toward the crescent when that grenade blew. Gun in one hand, tool bag in the other, she fed ravenously on the adrenaline coursing through her, hardly feeling the torn muscle in her hip at all.
Chapter 65. Union Terminal is under attack! I heard Captain Johnson yell into his radio after the first explosion. Stop all incoming traffic! I repeat, shut all rail traffic in vicinity of... Another voice bellowed, Man down! I scrambled to my feet and looked out through the loading dock door. Special Agent Bobby Sparks was sprawled, bleeding and unmoving between the rail tracks. 2 of his men were already tending to him. Where the fuck is she? Mahoney hissed at me just before the second blast went off. To our right, on the other side of the closest commuter train, a third explosion flashed and thundered off the top of one of the locomotives. Out beyond Bobby Sparks and the men working on him, 2 HRT operators crouched and ran toward the latest explosion, automatic weapons leading. 3 Amtrak police officers paralleled them, pistols drawn, leaving the rear platform, moving north onto the loading platform between the MARC trains. I was looking at the fallen HRT leader, wondering where Hala could have thrown the grenade from when Mahoney seemed to sense something. Trap. What? Booby traps, he said. She's drawing, he shouted into his radio. HRT, stand your... The hostage rescue operator closest to the commuter train broke a delicate fishing line and set off the 4th grenade. He was killed instantly, and his partner seriously wounded, a split second before the 5th bomb went off, between the 2 commuter trains where the Amtrak police officers had gone. Chapter 66.
2 minutes before the first grenade went off inside Union Station Terminal, Omar Nazad fishtailed the van in the deep, wet snow clogging 12th Street where it crossed over Water Street and began to drop toward M Street. The Tunisian knew from prior trips to the area that there was a construction site beneath the elevated freeway to his immediate left, an office building that held community college classrooms on his right, and beyond that, at M Street, a second office building that was headquarters to some kind of marine engineering company. But it all looked completely different now. Blanketed in snow, the buildings dark and deserted, it would be one of the last parts of the city to see a plow. This was both a blessing and a curse. At the bottom of the ramp, the snow had drifted so deep that the van bogged down, and his men had to jump out the back and push. 1 minute 50, one of his accomplices called from the van's rear. If God wills it, we'll make it, brother, Nazad said between gritted teeth that he clenched tighter when his tires caught, and they began to move once more. Approaching the engineering firm, they almost got stuck again, but he threw the van in low gear and kept it moving, and they slid sideways out onto M Street. The Tunisian could see nothing to his right, but he knew that somewhere there in the darkness was the incomplete infrastructure of a ramp that would eventually connect the 11th Street Bridge with the Southeast Freeway. Beneath it was all manner of earth-moving equipment, cranes and the like. It was in there, into that construction site, that Nazad needed to go, as deep into it as he dared. But the place was buried under 17 inches of snow, and if he parked on M, the van would most likely be seen, and they'd be questioned, and that would not do. 1 minute! Nazad looked in his rearview, saw no cars, looked out his windshield and saw nothing but the glow of street lamps on the falling snow. Something Hala had once said echoed in his mind. In times of crisis, Allah rewards the bold. That's when he saw how he might get close to where he needed to be. 50 seconds! The Tunisian pulled the van hard to the left, almost up against the median strip that divided M Street in that part of the city. Then he threw the vehicle in reverse, tore back the drapes, and yelled at his men to open the rear door so he could see. The second the door opened, he stomped on the gas. With all the combined weight in the rear of the vehicle, the van accelerated much faster than Nazad thought it would. It blasted through a cut in the curb that the freeway builders had made and bounded up onto the raised dirt road that ran back into the construction site. Wind had blown the snow around quite a bit here, causing it to drift up against the machines. 2 backhoes, a dump truck, and a bulldozer. But there was little more than 6 inches of it on the dirt road. Praise Allah, the Tunisian thought as they plowed deeper and deeper into the site. So close he could see a few lights on the southeast freeway, and then a stronger light coming nearer. The van stopped. 25 seconds! Nizad flicked off his headlights and sat there a moment, still looking out the open back doors of the van, panting, sweat pouring off his brow, and smiling like he had just won the lottery. The Tunisian heard a train whistle blow and saw down a steep bank on the other side of a chain-link fence the headlight of a locomotive pulling a long line of boxcars toward the entrance to a tunnel that bent to the right at First Street and ran beneath Capitol Hill to Union Station and all points north. "Count them," he ordered. He heard his men counting the boxcars as they passed. Nizad spotted the 29th car, a green Sea Ito shipping container, just before the snowy night was cut by the wailing of brakes and the screeching of steel wheels on the rails. The entire train came to a slow, mournful halt. The green container car was less than 100 feet away. The Tunisian's face blossomed into another joyous grin, and he pounded the wheel of the car. She had done it. That crazy Hala had done it. "Out!" he cried to the men in the rear of the van. "Everyone out!"
Chapter 67. "Send ambulances to the U.S. Postal Service loading dock on First Street," Mahoney shouted into his radio. "We've got 7 dead, 3 wounded. Suspect remains at large inside the Amtrak terminal, which has been booby-trapped. I want this place surrounded and as many bomb squads as you can muster. In the meantime, no one, I repeat, no one gets in or out of here without my say-so." I didn't envy my old friend that night. Mahoney had been sitting on Union Station with a full HRT team for more than 24 hours. He and Bobby Sparks were supposed to have stopped Hala al-Dasari from bombing the station, and now one of the most highly trained agents in the FBI was dead. Then I remembered something I'd read in the dossier on Hala al-Dasari. "Dogs," I said to Mahoney. "I'm calling in the K-9 patrols." The FBI agent nodded. "Good idea. We've got her boots and jacket. That's enough to key them on her. I want them for another reason as well. Hala's afraid of them. Pathologically afraid of them, evidently. As Amtrak and Metro Police set up protective lines around the dead, I wondered whether the random poisoning, the shootings on the loading dock, and the 5 explosions would be the full extent of the attack. Was that all? Or was there more to come? Some bigger weapon we hadn't seen yet? Before I could evaluate that possibility, my frazzled attention turned toward the remaining FBI HRT operators, who were using powerful headlamps and flashlights to search the immediate area for other tripwires. Yawning, desperate for caffeine, I thought, is this what Hala wants? To have the people hunting her feel like they're the hunted? I was fairly confident that that was indeed the idea, or at least part of it. But I could not stop the nagging feeling that, unless she was bent on a pure suicide mission here, we were missing something. That there was more to this than a fanatical woman with access to cyanide, bullets, and bombs. Chapter 68. I went up into the station, where people were frantic despite the efforts of officers on hand to calm them. They'd heard explosions, 5 of them, and they wanted out. I didn't blame them. A part of me, a very big part of me, wanted out too. 2 husky guys in their early 20s began pushing one of the officers guarding the exit near First Street. The cops grabbed the guys by their shoulders, spoke softly, and calmed them down. A middle-aged man wearing a fancy black cashmere coat accosted me. "You're Detective Alex Cross, aren't you?" He asked the question as if he were accusing me of something. "Yes, I'm Alex Cross." "Do you by any chance know who I am?" "Yes, sir, I do. Congressman Richard Holt of Delaware." "That's right," he said, and then his voice moved into the too friendly tone of a man running for re-election. "It really is necessary for me to be out of the station in the next 30 minutes. Do you think that can be arranged?" "Congressman, if I could arrange it, I'd have you and everyone else out of here in the next 30 seconds, and I'd be at home in my wife's loving arms." "Excellent," said the congressman. "How long?" Typical politician. Only listened to himself. "Mr. Holt," I said, "read my lips. I would like to have you out of here in the next half hour, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen." Holt smiled a standard candidate's smile and said, "If anyone can do it, you can. After all, you're Alex Cross." "Doesn't seem to be impressing many people these days," I said as I turned and walked away. Yeah, I was Alex Cross, without a lead, without a clue, without holla. And everywhere I looked, there were angry, frightened people trying to get their needs met. "My little boy has medication he has to take. My cell phone isn't getting any reception. What is this, Nazi Germany? This is exactly the kind of shit I expect from the Metro Police. You guys hate black people. You hate us." "Just stay calm, dear. There's nothing we can do." "That's always your stupid advice, Barbara. Stay calm. Just stay calm." I rubbed my temples, tried to find a place of quiet, a moment of sanity, so I could call home again. Nana answered on the first ring. "You coming home, Alex?" "Soon as I'm able." "You okay?" "I am. I just wanted you all to know that. Bree there? She and Jenny have gone to the corner for milk and eggs." "I'll try her cell." "You be safe now," my grandmother said. She paused and then added in a worried tone, "Alex, I don't feel good about whatever you're doing." "Having visions these days?" "I'm telling you what I am feeling," she said, hurt. "What we're all feeling." I hesitated, willing myself not to fall into the trap of thinking too much beyond the task at hand. When someone is lobbing grenades, you want to be single-minded, even if it hurts the people closest to you. "I promise you I'll be safe, Nana," I said at last. "And I'll call again when we've wrapped this up and I'm coming home." "Please do that, Alex. I mean, come home." "Always," I said, and I hung up. Chapter 69.
Snow began to fall again as one of Nazad's men set down his bolt cutters after clipping out an entire section of the chain-link fence that separated them from the train tracks. He and the other two members of the family were all wearing the same fake CSX repairman uniforms as their leader. "Get the substitute barrels," Nazad hissed to two of them, and he told the third, "Bring the tank." The Tunisian charged down the steep bank in the knee-deep snow as the flakes grew thicker and fell faster until it was almost as if he were in one of those Christmas movies that the infidels so adored and he so despised. Almost there, he glanced to his left along the boxcars. He was unable to see the two locomotives at the head of the freight train, which was good. He wanted them deep inside the tunnel, blind to what was about to happen 29 cars back. He reached the green C Ito container car and went to its rear doors, which were locked. To ensure the integrity of the cargo, whoever had loaded the car had sealed the locks with heavy-gauge steel cables and crimped metal plates that bore the date and time the doors were closed. One of Nazad's men appeared, lugging what looked like a scuba tank. Nazad reached inside his coat and pulled out an apparatus that included 2 rubber hoses, a brass connector, and the thin neck and head of an acetylene torch. They had it attached in seconds. Nazad glanced up the north bank toward the freeway. No one would ever see them down here. Who would look anywhere but the road in a crazy storm like this? He got out a flint striker, turned the gas on, and lit the torch with a sound like a cork popping. With 3 slow, deliberate slashes, he severed the cables from the ceiling plates. They fell hissing into the snow at his feet. Nazad shut the torch off and handed it to his helper, who set it aside and started to claw his way back up through the snow towards the repair van.